It's the Josh and Josh Talk Wrestling Podcast. Thanks to the power of pre-recording, we're back to two Joshes in this particular episode. We're going to get all of Josh's hot takes, cold takes, lukewarm takes, reviews, responses, rebuttals, everything under the sun coming at you. We're going to switch back and forth between my remarks and, of course, Josh's pre-recorded remarks so that you'll get everything that you need in this wild world of wrestling. We're especially going to be talking about Wrestlemania this particular episode. So let's just jump right into it. A strange Wrestlemania, Performance Center Wrestlemania. I got to tell you, I was underwhelmed by the presentation. I mean, I understand that this is a pandemic going on and the WWE is limited in what they can and can't do and how many bodies they can have in the building at any given time to do whatever they need to do. So I understand it had to be a little bit stripped down, but man, we're talking about WrestleMania here. This is WrestleMania, man. This is the granddaddy of them all. The big one, and it felt like another empty arena episode of SmackDown or Raw. I felt really underwhelmed by the presentation. I feel like they could have done something to make it feel distinctly WrestleMania. The thing about WrestleMania is when you watch it, if you do WrestleMania right, it doesn't look like an episode of Raw or SmackDown. And I understand the pandemic, but still, you can find a way to differentiate itself, and they didn't, and it was just like, ugh, at times. Now, there of course were certain things that being pre-recorded in such a way allowed them to do, which we'll get to later in the show. So let's just start with the matches, some of the key matches. There were 16 on the card, but we're not going to talk about all of those. We're going to talk about some of the key ones here. Let's start with Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley for the NXT Women's Championship. Great match, really. I'm not super familiar with Ripley. A 30 minutes knockdown, drag-out fight between the two of these. I mean, Charlotte was great. Rhea Ripley was great. I thought it was terrific. Let's hear what Josh has to say.
All right, Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley. I called it before. I think a lot of fans really thought Rhea Ripley was going to pull this off, sort of get the torch passed. I don't think she's ready for it. I think Rhea Ripley's a lot stronger chasing the title. So I was actually happy to see Charlotte Flair retain. But no, I called this pretty straight up. I think the big thing that WWE needs to answer is that what are they doing with NXT? Is NXT, the wrestlers comment that this is the main roster. So if that's the case, you have 3 world champions. You've got a world champion on Raw, you got a world champion on NXT, and you got a world champion on SmackDown. So they got to make that decision. Because at this point, Charlotte Flair, who is an A player, who is a main eventer with WWE, and who is definitely a legacy and a flag bearer for the future, she is now the NXT champion. And I believe they do consider those world championship runs. So that's something they've got to really kind of figure out is, NXT, is it just a developmental league, or is it actually a main roster show? Because someone would make the argument that, you've got Raw, you've got SmackDown, you got NXT, and you got 2 champions on each show. That's 6 world champions. It gets pretty chaotic at that point.
Yeah, I think Josh makes a really good point there. It is kind of splitting things way too much. Like, you would theoretically, you would want that one belt to rule them all, one ring to rule them all. One belt above all others, right? Would it be the WWE Universal belt? Would it be the WWE Heavyweight Championship belt? I mean, if, like you said, Josh, if NXT is now the main roster, is it the NXT Championship? Men's and women's, I guess you could say. Like, which is it? It kind of dilutes things. Yeah, it kind of spreads things out a little bit. I don't know what they could really do about that because, I mean, you theoretically want to elevate and make each one of the shows or divisions, let's say, seem worthwhile. Like, you want NXT to have weight. You don't want it to feel. Apparently, they don't want it to really feel like a developmental league anymore, which I understand. I mean, if you're the main roster, you don't want that kind of feel. But at the same time, then, well, where does that put Raw? Where does that put SmackDown? Where is anything? So as for Charlotte winning, yeah, I mean, it makes sense that she would take it. But yeah, good match overall. It just brings into question certain things of like where things lie in I guess you say the hierarchy of everything, really. And who knows? Maybe we'll never get an answer. Maybe we'll get some kind of like clarification or something at some point, whether directly or subtly. You know what I mean? Back in the day, whoever was the champion, okay, Stone Cold's the guy right now. The Rock's the guy right now. But now it's like, well, is it this person? Is it her? Is Becky the man? Is Becky at the top? Is it who's the guy? Is it still Lesnar? I don't know. I think the luster's gone off that a little bit. Like, in a way, we could really use this kind of like signifier, but we don't have it. So I don't know. We'll see. Next up, let's take a look at Braun Strowman versus Goldberg. Originally, of course, as we all know, was set to be Roman Reigns versus Goldberg. He rightfully decided to sit this one out, so we just got, we got Braun Strowman slotted in there. And I thought it was an okay match. Let's hear what Josh has to say about it.
Braun Strowman and Goldberg. This is another match I actually called, as far as the last podcast, I said specifically, Braun Strowman needs to go over, one, which he did, and two, they need to not have, as far as focus on it being a technical match. When you have two super heavyweights, you need to make this a la King Kong Godzilla. Have it just power move after power move after power move. Fans don't want to see you do a snapmare when you're 500 pounds. They don't want to see you put a figure four leg lock on when you're 500 pounds. They want to see two super heavyweights throw each other around, have finisher after finisher after finisher. It's kind of the same way when you're watching a battle royal. You have 20 guys running around, and then you see the two biggest competitors in the battle royal lock eyes. That's where it gets awesome. The fans love it. They get all riled up from it. And this, I think, match really did deliver on it. It really made me feel like I was watching a King Kong Godzilla movie. It was finisher after finisher after finisher. It was great to see Braun Strowman win his first WWE Universal Championship. So yeah, from here he goes on to challenge Bray Wyatt. It'll be interesting to see if he'll be a transitional champion. I think as far as the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, if you're on Friday Night SmackDown, he's the person you want to build it around. Bray Wyatt has the enthusiasm, he's got the legacy, and really it's his time. I think that he certainly paid his dues. He's been with WWE long enough, and I think it's time that you really take a look at this guy. And this is where fans they like him. They don't know where he's going next. The network seems to like him. It keeps people popping in and tuning in. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with Braun Strowman and the Fiend coming up here.
Okay, yeah, King Kong versus Godzilla. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, great match. Good match. The power was there. The strength was there. You got a couple big guys. You're going to want them to clash. That's for sure. Yeah, good stuff. I was surprised to see that Strowman was champion. I was happy, but I was surprised. I was like, okay, cool. Good, because you can't keep the belt on Goldberg for too long. I didn't think he should have ever gotten the belt. Like, Goldberg's a sideshow attraction now. He shouldn't be in contention to win the big one necessarily. He should just be Goldberg. He's the guy who comes in and he crushes, the competition. It should be like Goldberg versus like six cruiserweights or something, and he just tears through them or something. It's like that kind of thing. But hey, yeah, good match. Coming up next, we've got Edge versus Randy Orton. Really anticipated match, I think, for a lot of folks, especially old school fans of Edge. Seeing Edge back and then facing off against Orton, the history's there, and they did a decent job of building this one up too. Not that it needed a whole heck of a lot. I feel like the powder keg was already there, and this storyline just lit that fuse. It was all ready to happen. As soon as we knew Edge was coming back, I think most folks were the gears were turning in their head, saying, okay, what can we do here? Okay, all right. We got Randy Orton. We got Triple H. We got all kinds of history. Like Matt Hardy, even at the time. So this match really knocked down, drag out, all over the arena fight. This is the kind of thing where WWE is really making wrestling lemonade. You got yourself the empty arena. How do you take advantage of this rare opportunity you're stuck with, So this is one of the examples of WWE actually getting this right, I thought. It was a great match. Maybe not as hardcore as I would have maybe liked it to be. I'm just a hardcore kind of guy. I think of like Raven versus Kane or something running around in the backstage, like craziness. But they still did a lot. Hey, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. This is still an intense knockdown, drag out, lengthy, entertaining match between these two. And you could kind of see it. You could see that, they set it up well. He attacked Edge, but more importantly, he attacked Beth, So you could tell Edge would be real fired up. And I think that really came through here. I think they did a great job with it. I really enjoyed it. Let's hear what Josh has to say about that.
All right, Randy Orton and Edge. Alrighty, we'll just get it right out there. I sort of agree with most fans in this, that the match was too long. It was a last man standing match where essentially you got to the count of 10 to get up. And so I will agree with the masses, so to speak, the monolithic thought, as it were, that this match ran too long. That said, I still thought it told a good story. When you really think back of the history between Randy Orton and Edge, I think they hit every one of those points. I think my problem with the match was the story was good. It's just that the big bumps, the big moments of a last man standing hardcore no holds barred match, if you will, those were a little drawn out. I remember at the one point when they're on top of the semi, it didn't seem like it was that big a deal because they climbed up on a few boxes to get on top of the semi. So it was sort of one of those where you knew, okay, well, there's all these boxes around the semi. It doesn't seem as if it's really that scary. And really the urgency and I think the intensity was sort of lost in that. So I think it was sort of those big moments where, again, they actually did a good job with as far as filming one of the segments where they sort of threw one off and made it look like it was 15 feet. That was awesome. But other than that, I did think the match ran a little too long. But the story that was told was certainly there. I can't believe this will be the final match. I can't believe Randy Orton's going to let Edge have this. I'm guessing we'll see Edge versus Randy Orton 2 at SummerSlam.
Match too long, Josh. Oh, bah. I don't know about that. But yeah, we are in agreement that it was a great match, told a great story, and yeah, definitely anticipating Edge versus Orton Part 2 at SummerSlam. Yeah, totally. Let's take a look at Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar. This is a great match. You know, like I've complained about Brock Lesnar quite a bit previously, and I still do. I just don't think I'm just not real high on the guy. I'm just not anymore. I'm just done. But when he wants to work, when he really wants to do something, he does, and he did. This was a great match. McIntyre going over cleanly, Lesnar selling it properly. You know, McIntyre is a real threat to him. It was great. You know, of course, Paul Heyman's always legendary on the side there with his reactions. It wasn't just one of those 10-second things or like 5 F5s and that's the end of that. It was a good back and forth, and I really liked how Drew McIntyre came across as a real credible threat. It's like, finally. I know Rollins beat Lesnar, you know, a while back there, but if you watch back at the match, it was just too damn easy. Like this match with McIntyre and Lesnar going at it, that's believable. That's more believable. I can buy more into that because this was a real back and forth struggle. It was good stuff. Really good stuff. What do you think about it, Josh?
Lesnar, McIntyre. I initially called this, I said that, you know, Brock Lesnar should beat Drew McIntyre. They really need to curate the beast once again. You know, Brock Lesnar took the undefeated streak from Undertaker at WrestleMania. He created Suplex City against John Cena. He's basically proven he is a badass. However, I felt that he was a little deflated after his loss to Seth Rollins last year, and especially in the manner it was done. So I really think that they needed to take this opportunity to rebuild the beast, to make it an even bigger deal that Brock Lesnar gets beat. In this situation, I was really happy that Drew McIntyre got over, but I expected it. I initially called that Brock Lesnar would go over Drew McIntyre and actually maybe have Drew McIntyre win the title at SummerSlam. I called that a couple months ago. However, in the previous podcast, I mentioned, you know what, this is a pandemic. We need a hero. Give the title to Drew McIntyre. So WWE and certainly did in that fashion. But it was overall a good match. I just expected Drew McIntyre to win, kind of given the circumstances and sort of the build up to it. But again, I think the biggest question that sort of left with me was, so you got Drew McIntyre over. It wasn't a big deal. To me, it wasn't that big of a deal because Brock Lesnar has been deflated since last year's WrestleMania. That said, the Big Show, as mentioned before, Big Show did come out. And as far as wrestle, I believe, we'll have to check this out, but I believe he wrestled in the first ever dark match after a WrestleMania main event. So Drew McIntyre and Big Show, if you watch Monday Night Raw, they unlocked that for you. But Big Show, in a losing effort, took on Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship, which kind of made no sense. It was fun to see as a fan, but out of nowhere, Big Show shows up, gets a title shot 20 minutes after his title win. Didn't make much sense, but here it is. You know, it's wrestling, and it was a good match nonetheless to see that. But I will say it was great to see Big Show in the ring. Wasn't great to see him on Netflix. If you get a chance, don't watch the Big Show on Netflix. I watched it with my wife, and it was horrible. You know, generally, you know, I would say that we pretty much like anything. We're fans of Fuller House, all right? We do like the kind of corny humor. There was actually no humor in the show, which I found interesting, which is actually another interesting point of the show. You'll find that the casting is actually pretty good. The family itself, it seems like they have good comedic timing and whatnot. Big Show himself, Paul Wyatt, actually does come across as a legitimate sitcom player. That said, the writing is horrible. It really is just, it's not great. I heard it was actually written by the Raw creative team. Heyo.
Okay, and there you have it. I did not expect his take on this match to end with a critique of the Big Show on Netflix. You know, it's unfortunate though, but this is just how human psychology works, Josh, man. Like, you tell people specifically not to watch something, that it's so horrible, that the writing's bad, it's not funny, it's just awful stuff. People are going to want to go watch it. I want to go watch it now. So I haven't seen it yet, but now I want to watch it. Thanks a lot, man. Like, you've incepted me into wanting to watch the Big Show, and I will never forgive you for that. But you know what I can forgive? Let's take a look at Undertaker versus AJ Styles in the Boneyard match. And this right here, I got to tell you, this is what I wanted. This is what I was talking about in the last episode before WrestleMania, where I was talking about, you know, taking advantage of the pre-recorded nature of this and doing something really cinematic. And they did it. This is exactly what I wanted. I think Josh has some thoughts that it could have been a little more over the top. could have gone a little further, could have been even more movie-like. And, I totally agree with that. I just think the thing is that WWE is just really dipping their toe into this concept. I feel like previous ventures into this type of match after the final deletion and things like that, the New Day versus the Wyatts at the Wyatt compound, the Chamber of or the House of Horrors match. Yeah, I feel like this is the first time that WWE's actually gone all in on this type of cinematic match with the AJ Styles versus Undertaker match here. So I think that they're just now kind of starting to get it right. People are realizing what can be done maybe. So I'm going to cut it a little bit of slack that it's not quite where it could be. Like, I mean, yeah, if I had my way, I'd have some really grandiose, really dramatic, cinematic thing, really long, drawn-out awesomeness. And like I said in the previous show, maybe this will spawn some new match type or a new show, ideally. In my mind, that'd be great. Like a new show, just 30 minutes. And you have like two 15-minute really cool cinematic matches between two wrestlers, and you really take it up a notch. Come to think of it, I mean, this could be great exposure for mid-card guys, lower-card guys, that maybe they don't really catch fire in the ring in the traditional sense. Maybe they become like the action movie kind of cinematic wrestler guy. I don't know. Just a thought that just popped into my head right now. What do you think about that, Josh?
Undertaker, AJ Styles. This match really kicked a lot of ass. I really enjoyed it. It was filmed off location, and I'm glad it was actually filmed in a graveyard itself. They really took advantage of the pandemic in the best way possible. And I think this could be, as far as a future style of wrestling, we've seen this with other promotions, namely Impact Wrestling. As far as they have the tape footage and they show that in a wrestling match, talk more about the Fever Dream match with Wyatt, with Bray Wyatt and Cena a little bit later. But really looking at this, I thought it was great. It was really well done. And it was awesome because if you think about The Undertaker, he's able to do a lot of those action sequences because it was stop recording with the camera. Obviously, some of those scenes he wouldn't be able to completely do, given his age and as far as the wear and tear on his body, but because they were able to use, as far as the type of camera work they did, it worked out really well, and it proved to be an entertaining and fun match. A couple quick things, though. I probably would have, with the intro, it was great to have the Undertaker roll up as far as on his Harley, I believe. He rolled up, and it was awesome. It was like kind of seeing the American Badass meets the dark side of the Undertaker. That was great and all. I probably would have actually dragged that intro out a little bit longer. Actually had him show more of the motorcycle ride, not just as he entered the cemetery, but showing him actually on the freeway heading to the cemetery and whatnot. And actually, that kind of brings me to my second point, AJ Styles. They had him roll up in the hearse, did this sort of false Undertaker introduction where he popped out of the coffin. To me, that was low-hanging fruit. This is the phenomenal AJ Styles and Undertaker. You've got a golden opportunity here to really make a movie. I mean, which basically what it was. It wasn't really a match, it was a movie. And they had an opportunity to not just do the low-hanging fruit, to really do something with that. And I think what I would have done is given AJ Styles an equally awesome intro. Maybe had him show up in a Ferrari. So then you could have choreographed where we had this Ferrari. AJ Styles, comes up behind the Undertaker who's riding the motorcycle on the freeway. AJ Styles comes up with the Ferrari. You make a little action sequence there, and that they actually drive that then to the cemetery, and that's where the graveyard, the boneyard match would start. But overall, again, I'm sort of nitpicking this. I thought it was a great match. It was really entertaining, really well received by the fans, and it was definitely entertaining and certainly an out-of-box moment with this year's WrestleMania.
Out of the box indeed, Josh, man. Yeah, good stuff. Good movie. Yeah, as you put it, it's a movie. Vince said in Beyond the Mat, we make movies. Well, here we are, making movies. Here's hoping something comes of this. I think that this could be used to definitely extend the longevity of The Undertaker. What if all his matches are just cinematic matches now? But then the question there is, you don't necessarily want to do this kind of thing at a traditional style WrestleMania. Well, I mean, here's hoping that next year WrestleMania is just a traditional WrestleMania again with a big stage and with hundreds of thousands of fans in the audience. If that's the case, you don't want to have this pre-recorded match playing on a Jumbotron or a bunch of screens for the fans while they sit there in silence just watching like 10, 15 minutes. That's death. That's terrible. You can't do that. That's why I keep saying, do it as a separate show. Do it as something completely separate that doesn't have an audience that's going to be bored. It's just the home viewing audience is who's going to see it. Here's hoping. But yeah, great match. Maybe this will keep Taker going a little bit longer. We'll see. Because I personally don't think Taker really has much longer where he can go in the ring, maybe tag matches can kind of stretch things out a little bit more, but I feel like your best bet, really, if you really want to keep Taker going and really play off his mystique and his badassness and just the Undertaker mythos, let's say, the cinematic match could be the future. We'll see. We'll have to see about that. And speaking of cinematic and out-of-the-box moments, Wyatt versus Cena. at the Firefly Funhouse match. I'm going to let Josh start this one off, see what he thinks about it.
All right, so Bray Wyatt, John Cena, the Fever Dream match. Again, this was filmed off location. Well, part of it was filmed at the Performance Center, but it was basically filmed in the Firefly Funhouse, which is Bray Wyatt's main dwelling at this point. Generally speaking, it was great. There was they sort of called back a lot of wrestling history in the match. The way they were able to call the different phases of John Cena was really nice to see that, certainly as a lifelong fan of myself. They used some great vintage video, and it was entertaining. You kind of wanted to know, where are they going with all this? And I think that was my biggest problem, was that the finish. They didn't really do anything with it. Out of nowhere, the Fiend throws on the mandible claw and John Cena submits. Now, listen, this isn't my first rodeo. I understand that John Cena is a big Hollywood star, and he's got a lot of mouths to feed. When you are the star of an action film, a lot of people are depending on you. We look at The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. He got injured filming Hercules. That delayed production, that delayed advertising, and the studio lost a lot of money. And again, a lot of people, while Dwayne The Rock Johnson was healing from his WrestleMania match, there was camera folks that were out, there were script writers, there were all sorts of different fight choreographers, there were all sorts of employees of that movie that were out of work until Dwayne The Rock Johnson was able to heal. Same situation with John Cena. I get it that he is a Hollywood movie star now, he can't really wrestle a match, but then it sort of begs the question of why actually do it. So yes, I think we as a fans got what we wanted. We got a clean victory. The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, beat John Cena. It was sort of a tainted way of passing the torch, so to speak. But again, I ask, if John Cena couldn't take a single bump, why even have him wrestle? Why not have someone like, had a rematch, had Bill Goldberg versus Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania? Why not go that route? So again, I really liked, as far as the overall arc of the story they showed between John Cena and the Fiend. Again, the vintage video was great. My biggest problem came down to the finish, and arguably that's the biggest thing in wrestling. That's everything you do from the moment you leave. You go through the curtain, through the crowd, and you get in the ring and you face off with your opponent. Everything you do in the ring comes down to the finish. If you don't sell the finish, you didn't do your job. So, and this is the situation where it felt cheap. So it was, again, great. It was great overall to sort of see the different images they used throughout, but the finish, definitely lackluster. And here we go. We've got Bray Wyatt versus Braun Strowman for the WWE Championship coming up here. So we'll see if this elevates the Fiend to being a 2-time champ.
Yeah, Josh, I gotta agree with you on most parts. This was a very strange match, this Firefly Funhouse match. Very bizarre, very outside the box moment. That's for sure. I remember watching it and just my mouth's agape. Like, how did Vince approve this? How did they get this through? Like, how did Bray get this to happen? Like, just such a weird thing. It's like a twisted John Cena, this is your life almost. And then they threw in some what if moments with what if John Cena was in the NWO. Really weird, but also kind of rewarding for a hardcore fan to, like, really, the way they did the Saturday night's main event opening and the WCW stuff and just all this. They really went to great lengths to really make this something that real hardcore wrestling fans would enjoy and find little Easter eggs and little callbacks to, and just a really interesting way to do it. So it was probably the weirdest match, like the weirdest wrestling match, if you want to really call it that, I've ever seen. Like Josh said, the actual amount of action. I mean, I understand why, because obviously, you can't let Cena take the chance of getting injured. I get it, but then, like you said, Josh, why bother having him do this then? Considering this is a wrestling match, if he can't wrestle in the wrestling match, maybe don't do the wrestling match. Because that's the thing. I would have liked to have seen a lot more action. If everything, all these antics and these callbacks and these weird scenarios that John kept getting put into, if it just led up to him, becoming enraged or something, and then there actually is like, give me a few minutes of action, but I understand you probably just couldn't do that. They probably had to work with the studio for whatever movie he's working on right now. He can't cut his hair and he can't take any real bumps. I get it, but again, why did you do that? If we just look at what we did get, we got something really interesting, really weird, something that, I liked it. I liked it overall. I like this type of match thing. I hope they keep doing weird shit. Keep doing weird shit, WWE, please. If nothing else, you'll get social media buzz, right? So that basically covers everything really big that happened in this WrestleMania that was just too big for one night. A weird WrestleMania, a strange one. But that brings us to our main question. Did this Performance Center WrestleMania work? I have to give a nuanced answer. I have to say yes and no. I feel that the two nights was just weird. It didn't feel right. It took away a lot of the excitement and fanfare of the one. There's something about one night only versus one weekend only or 2-night event, or this is day one, this is day two. The day one main event's not, it's sort of the main event. They actually closed it off with Undertaker versus Styles, didn't they? So that was an interesting choice. It was weird. And like I said before, the way they dressed up, or rather didn't dress up the Performance Center, didn't make it feel like anything major, didn't make it feel big. That's disappointing as hell. Like, WrestleMania really does need that prestige, that pageantry, that huge thing, those big entrances. Kairi Sane should have gotten her pirate ship. That would have been a slam fucking dunk. In fact, I'm sure they were planning that at some point. I'm sure somebody was saying, okay, we're in Buccaneer Bay. We got the pirate thing. We're not going to call Paul Burchill, but maybe we can give Kairi Sane a big pirate ship or something that she rides out on. And I'm sure that they would have done that. And they couldn't, of course. I get it. But I don't know. You could have done a little more with the presentation overall. On the other hand, part of it did work because, like I said, you get these cool cinematic matches. Styles Undertaker and the Firefly Funhouse match. Those are real standouts. Like, those are always going to be remembered. Those are going to go down in history. Maybe people will love it. Maybe people will hate it. Maybe it'll just make top 10 lists of the weirdest WrestleMania matches ever. But hey, that's wrestling, right? Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But were you not entertained? Were you not entertained? Josh, man, were you entertained?
So did the Performance Center work for WrestleMania? Yes, I think overall it did work. It certainly proved one thing with Vince McMahon, and that is the show will always go on. Pandemic or no pandemic, the show went on. I had some concerns, though, about the workers actually having to travel to the Performance Center and get there and actually work and so on and so forth. Big Show, who, as history would have it now, who worked the first ever dark match to a main event, Big Show commented in an interview and said that straight up, he had no concerns with working at the Performance Center, felt everything was fine. He felt it was a great thing to provide to the fans. So there's that. So kudos to WWE, where it seems that they were taking all the restrictions seriously and putting on a good shows nonetheless. I did enjoy both nights. I overall, there were certainly some bright spots. Generally speaking, though, I probably would have waited. I would have postponed WrestleMania. WrestleMania should be a spectacle. Hands down, WrestleMania should be really the Oscars, the Super Bowl, everything rolled all into one. To do it in kind of a smaller black box, independent feeling for wrestling, it just didn't work for WrestleMania. WrestleMania needs that spectacle. So I personally would have pushed the pay-per-view back a couple months, say maybe late August, and really combine that with SummerSlam. So you have WrestleMania, SummerSlam all 1 week, one giant pay-per-view, one super show. There's already rumors that the Hall of Fame, traditionally held for WrestleMania weekend, will be held as far as SummerSlam weekend. So I don't know. Me personally, I would have moved the whole weekend just to the end of August for the security of the workers and also just to have an actual bigger show, to actually have a spectacle. But one thing's for sure is this WrestleMania was certainly unique, and that was for a variety of reasons.
Josh still sticking with the thought of postponing it being the best idea. Maybe it would have been. In theory, that would have definitely given them the time and the resources to actually be able to put on the big spectacle of a show that we feel that WrestleMania should always be. And maybe they should have, maybe they shouldn't have. Whatever happened. It seems like the attitude right now from Vince McMahon was just get WrestleMania done, get that over and done with. We'll move forward. So I guess he just wanted to get it over with. It is what it is at the end of the day. And like I said, we'll still be talking about it for a while. And at the end of the day, that counts for something. Speaking of getting out, the Revival has been released from their WWE contracts. And much to the surprise of most of us, there is no clause or stipulation in the contract there stating that they can't go to AEW. I think a while back we had heard about some wrestlers being told, okay, we'll give you a release, but you can't go to AEW, which is just, on its face, I think that's absolutely absurd. And just the fact that WWE can even do that or has the balls to do it is so crazy to me. Maybe they fell out of favor with that. Maybe they don't want to do that anymore because apparently the Revival is free to go where they want. I feel like their prospects right now are probably a little bit limited just because, I think most federations are not really concerned about hiring people necessarily. I think AEW should make inroads even during the pandemic, even if they're not going to be on TV for a few months, let's say. They should still reach out and secure that talent. I think the New Japan is just shut down for now. Who knows what they're doing? But yeah, New Japan or AEW would definitely want to get these two guys. Of course, they can't call themselves a Revival. Maybe they'll be the Resurgence or something. I don't know. I wish those guys luck. I wish them well. I hope everything works out for them. I'm glad that they were able to get their release because they just clearly were not happy there. And if you're just not happy, other than just being a bastard, WWE has no real reason to keep them other than business, blah, blah, blah. It's in our best interest. No, fuck that. At the end of the day, the happiness and just comfort and enjoyment of your workers should be one of your paramount things. We're probably right, I'd say right next to profit, obviously. Cash is king. Yeah, always. But man, if it comes at the cost of like the human element of it, just having a bad relationship with the Revival or just any performer, really, you want to try and keep the door open because you know, wrestling's a very incestuous business. People will come back to promotions years later over and over, and it'll be a cycle, and it just, you know, it'll constantly cycle out and feed into itself, et cetera, et cetera. So you don't want to start poisoning the well, you know, because you get what you give. And yeah, you know, like Josh will say, he said, everybody always comes back. No matter how much they think they hate WWE or how much they hate Vince McMahon, everybody always comes back. And, you know, it's funny because we're kind of seeing that to be, you know, sort of true in a way. But still, you still, even if you know they're going to come back, why be a bastard? Just let these guys do their thing. Let them get out of their contract. Let them go where they feel their talents will be better utilized. Why not? That's my thoughts on it. Let's switch it over to Josh, see what he thinks.
The Revivals have been released from WWE. I'm sure Revivals, they probably threw a party that went from dusk to dawn. You know, kudos to them. I know they haven't been happy. They'd mentioned about a year ago they were unhappy in their situation. They signed a year extension with WWE, and here we are. They're leaving. So my assumption is the next steps is that they're going to go to AEW. And if I'm AEW, what I would do is, you know, this is a great tag team. This is a tag team you could really build your division around. I think that AEW's doing a good job of building out their main event. I think they got to work on their women's division for one. I think two, they got to work on their tag team division. This is a perfect opportunity to bring in a well-oiled machine as far as like the Revival. I might even flip them. I might not have them come in as heel, have them come in as face. Build your tag team division around them, and you got a great cornerstone to your show moving forward. You could, of course, you know, at this point, you could always make them heel. We know that's something that definitely works, but why not try something differently? This is AEW. You're not WWE. Try something differently. So I would say, hey, blank check them, bring them in, whatever they want, and make them the cornerstone of your tag team. As far as WWE is concerned, it looks like they brought up the Forgotten Son, so they've basically thrown Revival away. So this is really a chance for Revival to propel. This is what they've mentioned before with WWE is they've wanted to be the quarterback. They've wanted to be the quarterback for the tag team division, and we saw elements of where, you know, they'd hold the tag team belts for an extended amount of months, but nothing really ever came of it. This is their opportunity. Now, at this point, if I'm AEW, I would say put your money where your mouth is, give them the deal they want, build the tag team division around, and let's see if these guys can really be the quarterback of your tag team division. No, again, it sounds like it's something they've been wanting to do, but, you know, it's all speculation at this point. If they go to AEW, they might go to NWA. They're definitely more of a traditional style of wrestling. They might even go to Japan. So it's interesting to see what happens from here, but my assumption is you want to hit the iron while it's hot. And I'm guessing if they're looking for a really good contract with some good money, AEW is going to be their next step.
Oh, that's a good point, Josh, man. You know, I hadn't thought of NWA. Yeah, with their old school no flips, just fists attitude, that could really fit in with NWA. Although if you really want to get where the money is and the better exposure right now, yeah, AEW is the place to go. But yeah, NWA, not a bad idea either. We'll see what happens. I'm sure these guys will land on their feet. They got the passion, they got the drive, they got the talent, they got the skill, they got the profile. But yeah, definitely want to strike while the iron's hot. Want to get these guys sooner than later, pandemic or no pandemic, you know what I mean? And speaking of pandemic, that's the end of our show. We want to wish everybody a safe, and it looks like that's all we have for today, folks. Oh, hold on. I'm being notified of some breaking news coming into the Josh and Josh Talk Wrestling newsroom right now. Okay, it looks like WWE has been deemed an essential service in Florida. As we all know, the COVID virus is wreaking havoc on the United States and the planet in general. And so a lot of businesses have been shut down unless they are deemed essential businesses, such as grocery stores, pharmaceutical, things like that, things that people definitely need, things that they can't live without, things that are utterly essential. So, of course, it makes sense that WWE has been deemed essential. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, this is unbelievable. Well, let's take a look at the facts here, okay? Linda McMahon is technically part of Donald Trump's administration. She's the administrator of the Small Business Administration. So she's part of that. Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, is a Trump sycophant and a complete piece of shit. Donald Trump is, of course, a complete piece of shit, and he's friends with Vince McMahon. So when you break it down, really, it's really not surprising that WWE has somehow managed to get themselves deemed as an essential service so that they can stay open. To me, this is utterly brazen. This is absolutely unfair. fucking believable that they're able to do this. This is the Looney Tunes world that we live in right now, people. Okay, so WWE is apparently staying open in Florida because they're an essential fucking business, much to the detriment or risk of, the employees, the people there, the wrestlers, etc. And, you could maybe say, well, they need the money, this and that. Yeah, and some of the folks do, but is it really better to have wrestling and risk people's lives? I mean, seriously. Would you trade wrestling for putting people's lives at risk? I mean, do we desperately need that? Do we desperately need these shitty Raw and SmackDown storylines that are running around right now and these empty arena shows? No, we don't. I don't think we do. On that note, fuck Rick DeSantis, fuck Linda McMahon, fuck Donald Trump, fuck WWE. And guess what? If that doesn't get your blood boiling already, WWE has just fired a whole bunch of people. Some of these firings may be mutual, like some of these folks might have wanted to get out of WWE anyway, but the timing of it all lumped together, it's just, it really says a lot about this company. We recently found out the WWE has some kind of fund they put together consisting of about $500 million in stocks and cash and debt allowances, I believe. Built up for this type of thing, this type of emergency, $500 million. We also determined that if we were to keep everybody that was just fired on the payroll, it would only cost WWE about $700,000 a month. But oh yeah, you gotta cut those. We gotta cut those costs because we're losing so much fucking money. No, WWE was set to make $120 million profit. They're not losing money. They don't need to fire these people. This is just an excuse for them to make even more money, which really brings Vince McMahon into supervillain levels of just ridiculousness. You know what I mean? He's in bed with the federal government is basically giving him the okay to do whatever the fuck he wants, at least in Florida. I mean, maybe it's best that it's in Florida, because fuck Florida. Anyway, point is, with this, and Crown Jewel, and everything else we've heard about Vince McMahon, the countless allegations, the countless rumor, the talk, everything we've heard, I don't know how much longer I can hold on to this, WWE. It's getting too disgusting to watch. Like, for me personally, I haven't been interested in most of the storylines or most of the goings-ons for a little while now. And so I was already starting to drift. And then you had this weird WrestleMania. And then you have these things going on. It's really starting to become the straw that's going to break the camel's back. Now, here's my thing. A few years ago when the WWE Network started, I went online and I printed out a full list of all the pay-per-view events from WWE, WCW, and ECW. And over the past several years, I've been off and on, casually, slowly going through and watching every single pay-per-view. The goal was to watch every single pay-per-view. And this is, I don't know, off the top of my head, I think like a few hundred, like 300 or 400 different pay-per-views easily. And I'm plugging away at it. And I've probably got maybe 80 or so left from WWE and WCW. I'm completely done with ECW. So I'm thinking maybe I just wrap up those remaining pay-per-views, and then I let my WWE Network subscription just bite the dust. I don't want to give them any money. I mean, this is disgusting. They have more fucking money than they know what to do with, and they keep making cuts, and they keep fucking over people, and they keep making deals with the devil, the Saudi Arabian government, Donald Trump's team of bullshit, people like Ron DeSantis. It's just too much. I think it's really too much. What that holds for the show, I'm not sure exactly. The thing is, there's plenty of other wrestling to talk about. Maybe Josh and I just start talking about NWA, Impact, AEW, of course, is one of my favorites right now. So there's plenty of options there, and I think that's important to keep in mind that there are other options. So we're going to have to see what happens moving forward, but right now, fuck WWE. And right now, I'm going to read to you, folks, a list of the people that WWE just recently fired, because we should remember their names. We should remember this. Kurt Angle, Drake Maverick, Kurt Hawkins, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, Heath Slater, Eric Young, EC3, Aiden English, Leo Rush, Sarah Logan, Eric Rowan, Primo, Epico, Mike Kanellis, Maria Kanellis, Zack Ryder, No Way Jose, Rusev, and longtime referee Mike Chioda. That's fucked up. And you could argue a lot of these people they weren't really doing much with. Are Primo and Epico really going to be that missed? Probably not. But still, not cool. Not cool, WWE. So that's my thoughts on things. I'm going to let Josh wrap up things with a nice little epilogue, kind of just summarizing his opinion on the state of WWE right now. Take it away, Josh.
As an epilogue of sorts, here are my feelings on WWE currently as the current product is. Looking at what happened with Crown Jewel and everything surrounding that, and then looking at the essential business, as it were, for between the Florida government and pro wrestling with WWE. I've got to be honest. I feel, and I won't get too political about this, but I'm actually ashamed of WWE as a company. I appreciate the WWE fans, I appreciate the workers and all the production staff and so on and so forth. But I feel at some point, how much is too much? And it's that very reason why I've decided to actually cancel my WWE subscription. I know no one cares, but and I'm sure I'll be back at some point, probably for WrestleMania 37. But that said, it's one of those where I do stand by the products that I purchase, and I'm not a huge fan of WWE. And as far as the $9.99 per month, I'd rather just spend that on watching some indie wrestling and support, even $5 or $10 here and there for some wrestlers that are wrestling empty arena matches. I'd rather my money go there than to WWE. So I don't want to keep this political. I'm a moderate person myself, but I think at this point, it's one of those where WWE, it's like, it's going to take some things to bring me back, because I'm not aligned with the product. I don't feel like I'm part of a revolution, like when I'm watching AEW or NWA or Impact or any indie show I go to. I feel like I'm part of a revolution, and I feel like I'm part of their revolution. I feel like I'm part of something, and that's important. Not only for the fun and the entertainment of it, that's important as a lifestyle, is that you feel that your contribution to the product is going somewhere. I feel like with these decisions with WWE recently, I'm going to leave it at that. And again, the cancellation subscription, I'm sure it won't make a dent. I'm sure it won't do that. I'm sure they'll find that $9.99 somewhere else. But to me, it's a principle thing. And I really hope that WWE and maybe some other people will follow suit, and maybe we have to vote with our wallet. And I hope that maybe WWE sees this as an opportunity to change things. And we'll leave it at that for right now. But, at the end of the day, like I've said, if there was no WWE around, wrestling would still survive. You'd still have your Impact, you still have your Ring of Honor, you still have AEW, you'd still have your indie scene. And again, I'm sort of talking outside the current moment of the coronavirus and pandemic going on right now, but you still have all these other federations that are fully functional and running. And I don't want to see WWE go away. I don't want to see WWE go away, but I do want to see some things change. And I'd like to think that make these small steps as a consumer will guide them in some certain way.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Strong words. Yeah, vote with your wallet, folks. If you don't like what's going on right now, vote with your wallet. There's plenty of other options. Giving up WWE does not at all mean giving up wrestling. There's plenty of options out there, like Josh was just talking about, like I was just talking about a minute ago. Yeah, go out there, explore your other options. Maybe you are a longtime WWE fan, and maybe this is starting to rankle you. We've talked about this before, about how like fans want to stay in the loop. You're kind of in that WWE ecosystem. You're watching, what 6 or 7 hours of WWE content a week, theoretically. And you just kind of get sucked into it, whether it's bad or not. You just find yourself watching it. But I think now is maybe time to really take stock of like the show itself and the people running the show and what it means, and just all this. Take a look. Think about it. Think about what you want to do. But I think that's all for now, unless some other big breaking news happens in the next few minutes. That's all for now. So make sure to subscribe. We may have a small audience. We may be just a couple guys doing what we can, but our opinions are always our own. If there's bullshit, we're going to call it bullshit. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Be sure to hit that like button. It helps give us more exposure, helps out the channel a lot. Tell your friends to subscribe. Maybe send them a link. That said, be safe, wash your hands, stay safe. Have a good night, everybody.